Hi, everybody. Good morning on this Tuesday morning, the 6th day of January. Great to have you along this morning. And if you're tuning in, surfing through on NBC Connecticut's Facebook page, my NBC Connecticut Bob Maxon Facebook page, or our YouTube channel, we're glad you found us. And in the next several minutes, we will detail what can be a little bit of a interesting overnight and early morning tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be a widespread issue, but we do have winter weather advisories up, and we do have the potential for some light drizzle, freezing rain, freezing drizzle type of situation. And again, we'll dive into it in just a moment. So let's start you off, as we like to do, with the rundown on this Tuesday morning. Outside, gray skies. There's a little bit of sun in parts of southern and southeastern Connecticut, but it's faint. It's filtered, not helpful. But it is considerably milder than it was yesterday by some 15 degrees. We got off to an Arctic cold start yesterday with some single digits. Well, that's not the case today. We're going to see some light rain and drizzle overspread the region this evening. The problem is the temperatures will be hovering around 32 inland, especially in some of our valley locations where you can cool off as the precip moves in, some evaporational cooling, and that sort of thing. So sometimes that 32-degree air is really hard to erode out, especially with the lack of a really gusty southerly wind. So even though the high temperature can reach 34 or 35 today, the temperature will drop back as this precip moves in, and that can and probably will lead to some icy patches in parts of the state. So let's just keep that in mind. So some ice tomorrow morning. As I like to do, we start you off with the radar because you can see an expanding area of precipitation. Now, I'm not expecting all of this to come through Connecticut. I think a lot of it goes north into northern New England, where they'll get some accumulating snow. We're always going to be on the southern periphery of this system, so this stuff down here will come cruising in here this evening. If you were with us yesterday, I've got a tickle that just won't go away. So excuse me for some occasional coughs. I need a cough button like they have fancy AM and FM radio stations. So a lot of that precipitation goes north of us, but not all of it. So the weather map sets up like this for late tonight and early tomorrow. There's your area of snow across northern New England. And then we got this little wedge right about there. And that's the part that can lead to some problems, is that's where icing is possible across most of Massachusetts, except Boston, and then into northern Connecticut and over into eastern New York. This is where this little cold air wedge, and it's not a real strong wedge. It's not a classic setup. This is not, I'm going to say this over and over, this is not some sort of fearful ice storm. What it is, it's going to end up being a bit of an inconvenience as untreated surfaces can become icy. So if this low were stronger, it would induce quite a wind from the south, but it won't. Instead, it'll be just kind of pushing in mild, moisture-laden air, and this battle zone gets set up, and that's when things get just a little bit tricky. You can almost see how the air behind this low is coming down counterclockwise, and this stuff is coming around the low pressure system from the west. So again, I don't believe any of this is going to be a humongous problem, but all it takes is one. And that's always the concern here. We're not talking about 18 degrees and freezing rain pouring down out of the sky and roads becoming sheets of ice. We're not looking at that at all. What we're looking at is an untreated surface or two, maybe your deck, sidewalk, driveway, parking lot. Even though they've been treated with more stuff, I always wonder where that stuff goes. Like, is it going to our water table? Because right now it's as treated as I've ever seen all the surfaces. So it's always a bit of well, it's a concern environmentally, but that's a whole other story. It will help us in this case to have everything already treated, because it's hard for ice to accrete on ice melt, right? That's what ice melt does. It raises or lowers the melting temperature, and things melt. So that's good. So see this little area of precipitation. It's not a lot. It's just a little. And most of it stays off to our north. Notice Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. This is the RPM model from IBM, and it's the graph is what we call it now. And you can see how it just sends little bits of precipitation, never that steady or heavy here. But I do believe that we can get a little bit of icing because of drizzle. And drizzle doesn't show up very well. Then I just let this play through because the skies turn brighter tomorrow afternoon. Thursday looks nice. And Thursday night into Friday, we're still nice and fair and mild too, before a rainstorm catches up with us. So the here and now, winter weather advisory in effect. Where? Northern Connecticut. Not everybody in the purple shading will deal with ice this evening as the precip arrives overnight when the temperatures drop. All it takes is a degree or two. It's amazing. 33 degrees, not a problem. 31 and a half, problems. Okay, so we have to monitor this fairly carefully. So we'll keep it in mind. Jump into the comments if you have any comments or questions. Oh, by the way. So the winter weather advisory. Now, here's a look at what I put out this morning as a general map of a 5/100th of an inch, almost immeasurable, right? Barely a little coating to maybe about 1/10 of an inch to 15/100ths of an inch. And what I've done is I've put a line here to show you that it would be this area that would probably have the best chance north of this red line. And especially what we found over the years is this area of the Connecticut River Valley and especially the Farmington River Valley, the cold air just kind of seeps in. If there's nothing to push the cold air out, we do have a frozen ground. The ground's frozen. We do have a snow cover. So the temperature may get to 34, 35 today and then fall back to about 31, 32, maybe 30, but that would be a stretch. And in this area, there's nothing to dislodge the cold air. So at the lowest levels of the atmosphere, there can be some icing from Hartford down into Middletown, Meriden, Markham Airport, up through Bristol and Farmington, through the Farmington River Valley, like at Granby, Avon, Simsbury, over into North Granby, maybe up into the Heartlands, and then possibly over here in Litchfield County, the cooler or colder air can kind of lock in. I know it's kind of a weird looking map, but that's taking it to the other level, right? I can say in general, Northern Connecticut could get a little coating of ice. But in an instance like this, live digitally, we can expand and go a little deeper and talk, take the forecast a little deeper. Now, here's the worst case scenario, I believe. And this is the North American model, the NAM, if you're someone who keeps track of things like this. Locks in the cold and brings much steadier precipitation than I'm expecting. I think the steadiest stuff is north. And oh, by the way, if you're someone who loves snow, north gets snow, central gets ice. North gets snow, not a lot, but 2 to 4 inches. And we get the potential for ice. Now, if you look really carefully, I need my reading glasses for this because it's hard to see. 1/10 of an inch, 4/100th of an inch, 3/100ths of an inch for Willimantic, 2/100ths of an inch in Meriden, 1/10 of an inch in Windsor Locks, and then a 1/10 to 2/10ths of an inch in that purple shading in Western Hartford, the Western Hartford County, the Farmington Valley, and over into Northern Litchfield County, where again, that's where winter tries to hold on the longest. So that would be the worst case scenario. So does that happen? Could. I don't know if we get enough precipitation to create 2/10ths of an inch of ice, but untreated surfaces could become slick. This is early winter's last gasp because milder air is going to come flooding in. It'll turn cold again. Don't worry. End of the month. But there's a look at the, this is the map for Friday. And Friday just gives you a sign that it's mild all the way up to Canada. That's light rain falling in Burlington, Vermont. Maybe some snow around Jay Peak or north of the Franconia Notch in New Hampshire, western mountains of Maine. but this is just some rain, and there's a second wave of low pressure for Saturday. Friday night, Saturday looks like periods of rain. If we're lucky, and I say that because if we're lucky, the second wave can miss to the south and not soak us, because I think the snowpack's going to melt, and I don't love when that happens. Everything turns to mud and slush. It's kind of gross. All right, so let's talk about today. Mainly cloudy again. Notice those high temperatures at the shoreline, 38, 39, 40 degrees. All right, that's well above freezing. Inland, 35, 36, 34, Stafford. Winter, we'll get a little melting today. So if you want advice, I would clean up some of the slush. Not that we don't even have to do that today. We're not going to freeze for a while. But you may want to go out and throw down just a little bit of ice melt. And I'll do the same. I have plenty on my driveway, but on my path where I have pavers, I'm going to throw some extra snow melt down or ice melt, so I'm prepared for this light rain and drizzle that can form. So mostly cloudy today, out and about, no issues at all. Now tonight, I want you to notice the overnight lows. See how we have 31 and 32 and even 29 in Torrington painted in there, and even 31 in Waterbury. Think about where that red line is that I presented a little while ago. It shows you that sub-freezing environment can happen. Now, Norwich and Storrs might briefly go to 32, but I think they bounce right back up as the precipitation comes in. But 32 New Milford, 30 Salisbury, that can lead to that glaze of ice. So tomorrow morning, we can start off with a little bit of light rain, freezing on contact. Notice that temperature, 31. If it was 33, it's not a problem. 31, an issue. Temperatures start to move up as the system moves by. We're going to see a lot of clouds. Temperatures get up to about, let's say, 38 to 44 inland, mid-40s at the shore. Some of our high-resolution imagery tries to produce a scattered rain or snow shower later tomorrow afternoon, but temperatures are above freezing. I don't think it's an issue at all, but it wouldn't surprise me if you got something on the backside of this system, but it won't amount to anything as far as issues. Let's talk high temperatures. And I forgot to lower this line down. If the overnight low or the daytime high is 36 and the average high is 36, that over there should be the same. But all I want to show you is that the January thaw is real, and it's got legs. Tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now, morning low temperatures might even be at or above freezing. Temperatures in the 40s with mild nights. Now, let's just take a look at this. And I'll go full screen for a second. This time of year, this is something Connecticut is known for, Rhode Island as well, and Massachusetts. You get this milder air to punch in. We get this January thaw, but at night it can cool off, especially when the skies are fair and the temperature can go from 46 to 30 like that. So what happens to puddles? What happens to areas of slush? What happens to melted snow? And we're going to get plenty of that. It turns back to ice during the overnight. So this melt, thaw, freeze, melt, freeze, melt, freeze, melt, freeze cycle can lead to all sorts of injuries. So you really got to use your noggin. Even though we talk about this thaw and we allow our winter sensibilities to go away briefly, because again, it'll be back by later in the month. You really have to be on your toes as you see those overnight lows, 30, 31, 27, 41 with rain. 35, 27, 27, puddles turn back to ice. It's basic properties of water, right? Vapor, solid, and liquid. And those temperatures are important. So we have to keep that in mind throughout. There's your shoreline conditions, very mild over the next 10 days. That's a thaw. So bye-bye to the snowpack. Bye-bye. We could be golfing at Shinnecock by early next week. I think they're open 7, they'd be, if they're not open already, they open up as soon as the snow melts. I've never played that. I believe it's a Robert Trent Jones, or is it Donald Ross? I think it's a Donald Ross gem. I've never played Shinnecock Golf Course, and that's on me. I've lived here for 30 years, and it's a classic golf course. I'm sorry. I digress. I'm going to talk football for 1 second. Of course, on Sunday night, right here on NBC and streaming on Peacock. Gotta have a sip. Sorry, it's vanilla latte. Sunday night on the Peacock and also on NBC. The Chargers of Los Angeles, led by Justin Herbert, and the New England Patriots, led by Drake May, MVP, are going to go head-to-head in Foxborough. 8 o'clock Sunday. The weather looks fair, probably more fair than the Patriots would like. It's better when it's bitter cold, when teams from warm climates like Los Angeles come to town. But it looks like a fair night. Probably won't be very breezy or anything like that. Just a nice night for football. Patriots, Chargers. I think the winner advances to play the Steelers or the Jaguars or the Bills. Jaguars. I'm sounding like a sportscaster or something. All right, let's put this map back up because it's important, and let's answer some questions. I appreciate everyone's input, and I can already see that some folks are going to give me a science lesson, which is one of my favorite things. Is when people ask, people tell me about science, because I've only been doing this for a couple of days, so it's great. Jason has a question that everyone seems. Jason, I want several feet of snow. Do you really? If you want several feet of snow, take a little ride. Go ahead. Go to upstate New York right now. Go ahead. Go to New Haven, New York. Pulaski, New York. Oswego, New York. Go ahead. Go for a drive. Looks like you have a child. Jason, take your child and go for a drive. And go see what it's like to deal with several feet of snow. In fact, when I was your child's age in that picture, I was shoveling. First thing I did. I didn't even speak yet. I couldn't even form words, and I was told to go shovel snow. That's what growing up in upstate New York is all about. So, Jason, I think you should go there. And then Jason asks, any big storms in long range? Not at all. Not that I'm going to talk about. Because long range is like rolling dice. Past 7-10 days, and you see people posting on social media that there's going to be a big storm 260 hours from now. It doesn't make any sense, and it really rarely comes true. Care to take a guess about schools? Larry, 95% of schools will be open tomorrow. It's the 5%. I would think if there's going to be a school delay, I don't think any will be canceled, Larry, but I do appreciate that question. That question is a very frequent ask. Is that temperatures will be creeping up, so maybe a 2-hour delay, maybe areas north of that weird squiggly red line, north of there. South of there, I don't think so. I've been wrong before, I know, and people love to tell you when you're wrong, but right now I don't think it's a big issue. Oh, here we go. Ben has been staring at the 3-kilometer NAM is unbelievable. I know. And I presented Ben just moments ago, the NAM being a worst case scenario of a couple tenths of an inch of accretion. Cold air damming may be an issue in the valley. Ben, it's like you're regurgitating what I just talked about. But I appreciate your input. I really do. I'm just saying, I don't think schools should be an issue. What are your thoughts? Well, Ben, I think there could be some issues. It's always fun to go back and forth. And as I said, I think 5 to 10% of schools could have a school delay, and those would be north of that line. Fairfield County, New Haven County, Middlesex, New London, no issues at all. And Ben, I kid. Okay, I hope you understand sarcasm. I think it's great. I love people that are interested in weather, and you're looking at model data, and I think you are right on. Wait, Ben, did you? No, you didn't check in yesterday about just finishing up a class. Oh, that's Jason. No, somebody was checking in yesterday. My short-term memory, I'm getting old. Greg says, sometimes as the rain is heavy, it may not freeze as easy, even at 31. And sometimes pavement may be colder, so rain could freeze at 34. I'll give you that. Light rain and drizzle can create problems on frozen surfaces, but as I mentioned, I think a lot of our surfaces have been treated, over-treated, then treated, pre-treated, post-treated, treated again. So those treatments will work whether the rain is heavy or light and whether it's 34 or 31. So again, that's why I don't think this is a major issue. About what time is it going to thaw out tomorrow after the freezing rain tonight? Ada. It matters where you live. A place like Simsbury, Avon, Granby, East Granby, the airport, it may take all day to get to 33, 34. We've seen that cold air lock in. Elsewhere, it could happen. I mean, in the shoreline, it happens. It never really freezes, so there's no thawing out. Elsewhere, it'd be between 9 and noon for many folks, and then after 12 in some interior valleys, then after 4 or 5, if it happens at all, in the Farmington Valley. So it really does matter where you live. It's not, there's never a clear-cut answer, even in a situation like this. It's not like every part of the state goes above 32 at the same time. It's all about timing. And if you live north of this red line that's I've left on the screen for a reason, it would take longer than the rest of the state. Hank says we have February and March, and then it's back to lawnmowers to get ready. Yes, my lawnmower needs servicing big time, Hank. We should probably talk. Yeah, it's an old one. It's an old Craftsman, but LT 1200, Briggs & Stratton engine that just purrs. The engine's great, but between blades and decks and wheels and tires and I want to buy a new one, but my wife says, this one works fine, but she's never the one actually driving. Time for a new mower. Okay, let's see what else. Jason, been here 40 years, still want it. So Jason, in your lifetime, you've had, this is actually the 30th anniversary of the blizzard of 96. I forget exactly how much we got. 95, 96 was an epic. Wait, 96, 97? I always get this mixed up. 96, 97 was the snowier one because, no, it was 95, 90. The 115, 112 inch snow at Windsor Locks was one of those years. I always thought it was 90. I was just married 96, 97, but I think in the record books it says 95, 96 when I lived in the West End of Hartford. They were both snowy. I just remember one particular part of the 96, 97. It must have been after. No. See, now I've confused myself. We had a Beagle puppy, and we got it in the fall of 96. And I had to walk the dog every day, 96, 97, because Beagles need to be walked. And the snow was unbelievably deep. I remember him trying to. His name was Woodstock, but I digress. So what I'm saying, Jason, is you could count on one hand, 3 fingers, how many times you've had a multi-foot snowstorm. Maybe 4 fingers. March 93, February 2013, 78. You weren't born yet. 96, maybe March 93, 96, 2013. So those were the only times you got multi-footers. What was the dark pink represent for ice? Well, along the Mass Turnpike, Alex, being a regular contributor, I can't. I know I'm on a medium right now that can go everywhere and anywhere, but it would be more than 1,500s. There'd be a few spotty areas in Massachusetts that would get more than 1,500ths of an inch of ice, maybe 0.2. I don't think it's a big problem, but that's what that up there in Massachusetts. But when I'm on TV all morning, I focus on Connecticut because that's where we are. Larry, thanks, Bob. You're welcome. Ada, or is it Ida? Ada, you're welcome. Ben, you're welcome. Good morning, Bob. Oh, Michelle's a regular contributor. How is Waterbury looking with the ice later? I don't think it's going to be a huge issue, but Waterbury is tricky because you obviously have the Western Hills, the Eastern Hills, you have all sorts of elevation changes, you have the Naugatuck Valley, Waterbury can, in model data, supports about 32 degrees. If it's 32.5, I'm not worried about it. If it's 31.5, I'm concerned. I would say after 7 p.m., you have to be weather alert to some icing. But boy, of the treatment's been put down, treatment after treatment after treatment after treatment, as I mentioned. So I don't think we're not going to have widespread slip, slide, and away stuff here. Crashes will be due to speed, and the precipitation, I think, is going to end up being extremely light, as in drizzle. Drizzle can be problematic, but treatments should do the job. 96 was a 96 was a bad drive home after a night shift. Oh, the storm of 96. Sharon, I get it. It was. I probably worked that one. I don't recall it, but I do remember having mounds of snow at our condominium complex in Bloomfield. First place we lived was Winfield in Bloomfield as newlyweds. Kind of cool. I love that condo. So Sharon says, yes. All right. So just to regurgitate quickly, we are going to get snow and ice. Listen to me. Let me rewind. We will have precipitation overspreading the region this evening in the form of some very light rain and drizzle. And the temperatures, we can go through maybe just a little bit in the column. If there's any dry air, we get a little bit of evaporational cooling that'll send the temperature north of this red line to sub 32. You know, let me just do something real quick. Since we're all here together and we're live, this is, I want to not fix something because it's wrong. I just want to edit something. No, that won't let me. I think this red line should be a little bit closer to the Waterbury area. So I can't go. Yeah, I can fix it. I'll fix it while we talk because I can do that. I'm, amazing like that. So let's just take that, move it over a little bit that way. And I think I like that depiction better. So I hit save, close, present. And there you see it. Kind of cool. So let's say that whole area from Waterbury to Meriden to Middletown North has the chance for some icing. Okay. It's not going to be a ton, and treatments will do their job. But as I started to mention many times, all it takes is one spin out. All it takes is one crash, and it's an issue. One slip and fall, broken shoulder, collarbone. Then it becomes an issue. So I think during the overnight and early tomorrow morning, there can be icing, especially north of this line. And Farmington Valley, Connecticut River Valley, maybe parts of Northeast Connecticut, but you're living on the edge, you always do, and parts of Litchfield County. Shoreline, no big concerns. Precipitation in whatever form winds down pretty quickly tomorrow morning, probably in the form of drizzle that's freezing on contact. And the temperatures start this creep. They start just creeping up tomorrow. Inland, it may take all day. Shoreline, it's easy, quickly get up into the low 40s. But there's nothing to drive the warm air north. So it's a dreary day tomorrow with areas of drizzle that can freeze on contact north of that red line. Then the temperatures will start to move up. In fact, they can maybe even move up a little bit tomorrow night into the day on Thursday. And Thursday will be considerably milder. Okay. Thanks, Bob. There are viewers who travel north regularly. I get it, but I just can't spend a ton of time. Good morning, Bob, from what? Westbrook. Can you send me cough drops? Man, that's the worst. So that's our latest thinking. Hopefully you got what you needed, and I appreciate you all for swinging on by. And again, do so whenever you need weather information this time of the morning, generally between 9 and 10. I'll be here for you. Okay, so thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you again tomorrow.